And welcome in everybody to another episode of the High Low Sports Podcast. We appreciate y'all so much for joining us on this Wednesday evening, or if it happens to be on your favorite place to check out podcasts later on in the week. It is the week of National Trading Card Day. So if you know, you know, and we appreciate you all so much for joining us. It is DJ joined as always by my co-host Kelcey, and there's a lot of different references I could have made this week, but we're gonna just stick with the Trading Card Day one. We're not gonna take the low-hanging fruit this time.
Yeah, no, that works. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with not taking the low-hanging fruit every time. But yeah, speaking of trading card day, I found this in my container of stuff recently. Let's see if it'll focus in. There's a Mickey Mantle 1978 graded card. I don't even know when this was graded because the company that graded it was a Beckett, old version of Beckett. I don't even know when it was graded, but it was a 9. It's a rated. They graded it a 9. I'm half tempted to break it out of this lab and see if we can send it to PSA. Maybe get a lenient 10 here soon. But yeah, no, that was cool. I've gone through a bunch of cards recently. I know I mentioned on the show last week. People will see my sports collection here soon. Maybe we'll get into Pokemon. Maybe we'll get into something else down the road. But we'll start with the sports cards collection at some point in time. Yeah, sometime soon. Maybe March. We'll see.
You know, you're just stockpiling things as you go, stockpiling medals. Well, you're stockpiling cards like some teams were stockpiling medals, which I think is a good way to lead us into the first part of our show. That is the tip-off brought to you by our good friends over at SeatGeek. Use code BUGSports for $20 off your first purchase on any tickets for sporting events, comedy shows, festivals. If it requires tickets, use Belly Up Sports for $20 off your initial purchase. And the Winter Olympics have wrapped up, and they wrapped up with quite the bang as USA men's hockey taking the gold, doubling down on gold in hockey as well. Norway taking home the most gold, though, as we take a look at the results. Norway not quite running away, but at least briskly jogging away with it with 41 total medals. The USA in second place with 33 and 12 gold, by the way. Norway pretty much running away with gold at 18. USA with 12, 10 for the Netherlands and Italy, and Germany with 8. So really the hockey game, you could make a case that was one of the, when you think about everything that goes into that, the fact that they haven't won gold since Miracle on Ice, it's been that long. They've completely outmatched. If you look at it like player for player across the board, you can make a case as one of the best hockey games, at least in a lot of our lifetimes. I won't say ever, but it's definitely one of the best hockey games in our lifetime. And I think I'm not going to say that we've officially taken over Canada at that point. I'm not going to say that this was the invasion that was alluded to, but that was an incredible performance and one of the best sporting events I've ever seen. When you think about the tension, the moment, the goalkeeping, my goodness, stopping 41 out of 42 shots on goal, including one that I swear he used the force. I'm sure he used the force on that one. I don't think that was actually reflexes or anything, but one of the best games, and it capped off a very, very good performance by the USA in the Winter Olympics to get second with gold, and I believe second overall in medals.
Yeah. Second overall in medals total. Sandwiched right there between you have Norway. They have Norway up there, and then surprisingly Italy hosting ended up there in the top with total medals. I always get confused with the Olympics because are we ranking total medals or are we just ranking golds? Because if we're just going best off golds, cool. We're just going off of total medals like they complain about in the summer because, you know, Americans send 300 plus people to the Olympics and everybody else sends 10. Anyways, don't get me started. But no, I think you look at the hockey matchup, right? That's always a fun one because that's always going to be the USA Canada. Until further notice, it's USA Canada. Maybe Russia throws their hat in there, but they're not in the Olympics anymore, so you don't have to worry about them. So yeah, it really does open the door for USA Canada. It's been that way for the last 3 Olympic cycles. Maybe there was a Sweden or a Norway thrown in there at some point in time. I don't honestly remember 3 years ago or 3 Winter Olympics ago. But yeah, I think it's very interesting. I won't go as far to say that, hey, USA is back men's wise, but women, we dominated literally every step of the way. Women's hockey. That was crazy to watch those games. I jokingly was talking about, it's going to be another 5-1 game in a quarterfinal matchup, and it's a 6-0 game. And I'm like, oh, okay. Just kidding. My bad. I wasn't getting up there. By the way, the only time I've ever seen my last name on a jersey other than Irish soccer players is the USA women's team in Kendall Coyne. So that's cool. Always a big fan of that. But yeah, I think the Winter Olympics are always fun. Hockey is always a fun conversation to have. Are we there yet? Probably not. Sidney Crosby plays. I think it's a much different game. I think instead of 2-1, I think we're looking at a potentially 3-2 Canada flip on that one because it does make that difference. But he must have been really injured to not play. But yeah, shout out to the USA, did what they got to do, and caps off what has been a really fun run for the U.S. men's hockey team for the last, I don't know, I'd say 3-4 years, especially talk about the Four Nations Cup, then all of that, Freebird. Yeah, it's been a fun run for men's hockey for sure.
And then they're going to go back into playing their NHL season, and they're going to be like, well, I don't want to play you guys anymore either. I've seen what it's like on the other side. And those Canadian teams, those are going to be some rivalries when those are going to be even more cranked up than they normally are when you see the Canadian teams taking on the USA teams.
What's worse is the American captain is also the captain of Toronto. So that is by itself a very unique situation, to say the least. Yeah, it is what it is, right? That's how it goes. Especially when you play cross nation lines with a home league, you go into international play, and especially at the top level, it's like, yeah, you're going to be playing against somebody as your best friend. And it feels like the USA, every match, every game was playing somebody that they are teammates with, that they are friends with, that they've come up through juniors with. So, yeah, I thought that was really cool. I love the Olympics for that spirit, especially hockey. I wish more sports would allow their top tier talent to come and play, looking at baseball. But, yeah, it's always fun for hockey season, for sure.
We're going to see a lot of similar things with the World Cup coming up as well, coming up later this year. And then the Summer Olympics in a couple of years. A whole lot to look forward to.
Yeah, 2028 LA.
Hopefully everything goes the way it's supposed to. But, speaking of football, which will also have flag football in there, and, we're in transition quickly to the NFL to the franchise tag season is fully underway. And at Falcons, we'll be kicking things off with Kyle Pitts getting the franchise tag, the first of the season. And I dig it. It makes sense. He had a very nice career resurgence this year, too. I think up to 5 touchdowns this year. And if the trajectory continues, he'll get number 6 next year. So he continues to go up in that regard very numerically. I don't want to say this is finally the year because people have been saying that, especially in fantasy football for his entire career. But I like the idea of having Kevin Stefanski as his coach because he does scheme up tight ends very well off the run game. You just need Michael Penix to stay on the field, really, and throw inside the hashes more than 10 times in 9 games. Just some things to work on there since Kirk Cousins is gone, but you don't let Kyle Pitts hit the market, so I get it. You don't just let him hit the market at this point, too. He's still 27 years old. I get it. You keep him in. This is the year, right? This is the year. You hope for Kyle and for the Falcons. You hope it's the year because he's going to get a bag if it is.
Yeah, no. There's very few franchise tags I ever look at, and I'm like, you know what? That was a really just equally across the board. That's a good move for both sides. Oftentimes it's like, a player that's like, why are you franchising that guy? Like, why don't you just pay that guy? With Kyle Pitts, he's been so down. It's like, okay, we'll accept that you had a really good year, you had an in-between year, and then you had a very bad year. Let's just see if we can get a great year out of you again before we potentially talk about a full-on contract extension. And yeah, this one just makes sense across the board. So I like this one for Atlanta, especially with Stefanski coming in. Like you said, it's a lot of positives there. Everybody gets healthy on that team. It's a much different conversation for next year. And the one thing we've never disagreed on and we can fully support is the fact that Kevin Stefanski loves play action and loves throwing the ball to the tight end on play action and doesn't mind his tight ends running real routes. His receivers, on the other hand, much different conversation. But his tight ends, they run real routes.
Drake London's about to be transformed into a deep ball, jump ball merchant, unfortunately, and Kyle Pitts is about to go ballistic if Penix can just stay healthy and throw something besides those 15-yard out routes, deadly accurate, and the random 9 balls. I need something. Something, Michael, anything, but and stay on the field.
I'll say, and we all know what's going to really happen is Bijan's going to carry the ball like 30 times in game 1, and you're going to be like, oh, great. I should have just never taken anybody from Kyle from Atlanta other than Bijan, but we'll be fine.
It'll somehow work its way out. Then around playoff time is when we'll see Tyler Algier, who might not even be on the team, randomly emerge or something ridiculous like that. They'll sign him as a free agent in October just to spite people. But
every time.
Speaking of Kyle Pitts getting franchise tagged, it's about that time where we're going to see the franchise tag start pouring in. March 4th is the deadline, heading right into free agency. The question is, who are we going to see next for the tag? I think there's some really good options out there. Kelcey, I'll let you go first. Who are some guys you think are bound for the tag?
Honestly, I feel like franchise tag is such a joke nowadays that it's going to be anybody. I
If
wish
I
I
got
had
rid of it, I would not complain.
Yeah, if if it was like rule change galore, and then it's like, oh, hey, first thing we're going to take off is franchise tag instead of, yeah, I don't care anymore. But yeah, it's well, I don't know. I'll let you go first. You go first on this one. I'll come back to my answer.
We're going to start with arguably the top rated free agent that's available, in Tyler Linderbaum. I think there's a good they do have an offer out there reportedly that will make him the highest paid center. The question is, does he want more? Or is that true? Or what's the guarantees? Or what's the ins and the ands and the cranks and the crannies of the contract? But if the Ravens are smart, they are not letting that man hit the open market, because there are 29 teams that will gladly give him whatever bag he asks for, and then 30 that will get really close. You're not going to find very many centers better than Tyler Linderbaum, and especially at his age range and what he offers. And they're going to be running the ball next year. That's just my hypothesis. I believe they will be running the ball next year, and that's exactly who you want leading the way up the gut. So I think Tyler Linderbaum's the first one that stands out for me. Next one, it's all but obvious it's going to be George Pickens at this point. They have to keep him. He was awesome last year until like the last 2.5 games, give or take. But for the most part, he was awesome. You traded for him, so you're not going to let him go. You saw that dynamic of having him and CD when they were together healthy, and even when CD was out. It just makes too much sense. And I think Dak really enjoys having that bigger X-type receiver that he could kind of just put the ball in his vicinity for while CD is cooking all over across the field. If they want to actually turn this thing around and not continue to be embarrassed for the Micah trade, you bring back George Pickens. And I don't know if they'll get – I could see them not wanting to give him $35 million a year or anything like that at this point, because those last couple of games was a little concerning. So I feel like he's all but bound for the franchise tag, if nothing else, so they could sign him in like 2 months. They just don't want him to hit the open market for the same reason, because then the Raiders will be like, Mendoza needs somebody to throw to. Here's your $30 million. We got it. Like, we're not worried about it right now. Just come here and catch bombs from Mendoza, please.
Yeah, no, that's fair. You know what? I don't hate either of those options. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I'll go with. I'll give you that. George Pickens, especially, it makes sense. Like, do you really want to pay the guy? Can you pay the guy? Probably not. Can you pay him for a year? Yeah. Long term, probably not. On that same vein, I think looking at it more than thinking about it, I think Super Bowl MVP, potentially franchise tag, Kenneth Walker, K9. He's definitely an option. I don't know if Seattle can pay him long term. I think they should. I feel like they should. Every Seahawks fans feel like they should. He hasn't done anything wrong, but at the same time, we all know how running backs go in the league. And I'm going to stick with that same thread for the next guy, Breece Hall, for the Jets. Again, a guy up until last year was a top 5 running back choice. And then obviously the Jets are what they are. And so you're like, all right, well, that offense is awful. So maybe we don't give it to him. And Justin Fields was going to, quote unquote, take some of his rush attempts. Well, that didn't happen. Still ended up with 1,000 yards, 4 touchdowns. So still had a good season. Up for contract renewal. Do the Jets really want to try to spend a bank right now when they don't even know what their coaching future is going to look like after a year? Because it's the Jets. So yeah, I think Breece Hall makes sense for the Jets as the option. So yeah, I'm gonna go 2 running backs. That's just seems the safest option for sure. Other than like maybe Mike Evans or something like that.
I hope the Jets don't franchise tag him, because I want to see him not on the Jets. So I really hope they don't. Like, I hope there's like, you know what? No, we don't need you. And then he goes to not Kansas City, and we can see Breece Hall back in action in full force. That's the dream. But
yeah, well,
like
hey,
said,
Dallas needs a running back anytime soon.
They did sign Javonte Williams, so I mean, they did.
Dallas needs a running back anytime soon.
Oh, Javonte was all right. He was fine. Now, if you want both of them, then yeah, sure, you want to be greedy. And say, you know what, we're not going to stop anybody, so we're going to run 2 backs and 2 receivers and a tight end, and good luck, everybody.
Look, I know I got the blue lights on behind me. I could care less what the Cowboys do. I have traded that in as long as they just keep signing Brandon Aubrey and just keep him in the league. Just Brandon Aubrey is the only thing that matters. Otherwise, I don't care what the Cowboys do. At least until Jerry Jones
Javonte Williams to that 2000s offense with 2 backs, tight end, 2 receivers. It could be fun. I mean, like, you do have Shoddy. He saw the era with Shoddy. Like, you know what? It could at least be amusing, if not.
Hey, Atlanta got to a Super Bowl using 2 running backs. That's all I'm going to say. They also had a Hall of Fame quarterback, but I'd digress because they didn't win. So,
yeah. And play them both at the same time too. None of this trying to save them. I want to let them both cook at the same time. Looking at you, Detroit.
Looking at what Carolina did when they had Cam and they had Jonathan Stewart and they had D'Angelo Williams. Like that running backfield was insane. And then don't forget Mike Turner.
Make 2 running back situations great again. That's all we have on this point. Like
technically they had 3 and then Cam.
Make several running backs play at the same time great again. But we're talking franchise tag. Let's talk about future guys that'll probably get franchise tagged at some point because of the way the NFL works. The NFL Combine starting this week. We've talked a lot about players coming into it. We did our prospects list last week. Now we're going to talk about guys we think are going to light up the Combine, guys to really watch and keep an eye on. Kelcey, this time I will let you go first. There's a couple of guys that you're looking at like, okay, these guys are going to make a lot of money this week.
Yeah, I'm going to start with my number 10 on my board for guys to watch or guys I think are going to be a top 10 player in this draft. Keldrick Falk. I think the edge out of Auburn, he's a guy I keep looking at as like, I don't see him as a potentially can't miss in the new NFL because size doesn't really impact edge rushers as much as people love to claim it does. As long as they're speedy, as long as they can get around, as long as they have strong arms, a lot of the rest of the stuff can fix itself over time. I'm not going to say he's going to be a top tier guy. I'm not going to say he's the next Micah Parsons again. I learned my lesson, but I think he's a good guy to watch for this combine. He's going to really test. I believe he's going to test well, but I think it's deciding whether or not he's that good of a first round talent will be decided in this combine before the pro day ever happens. So he's number 1 on the list. Number 2, Caleb Lemieux, the other tackle for Utah. Enough said. The other tackle for Utah is the other guy. And then my third, just to have a third because I want to, is a guy I think I've probably bagged on more than any other player in the last 2 seasons of college football. But I also think he has an opportunity to walk into a team if he can test well at the combine, and that's Carson Beck. I think as a quarterback, you're going to be under the spotlight. There's got to be some quarterback that shows up at the combine and actually does something. And if you're Carson Beck, you just came off a national championship appearance. You have yet to really prove that you are that dude that you were supposed to be. You're a really good quarterback in college, but can you prove that you can be a average to above average quarterback in the NFL? I think the combine's going to give a little bit of light on that. But I think he tests well. I think I'm going to be interested to see, obviously with if he's throwing, if he's running, I'm interested in those pieces. I don't really care about the strength test. I don't care about the hand size test, height, whatever. Don't care. As long as he doesn't test it like 5'10", I think he's fine. And I don't think he has to worry about being 5'10". But yeah, I think his accuracy is going to be a big question. Making sure that release point and that strength of the arm, especially the downfield throws, is there after that UCL surgery a couple years ago. So yeah, Carson Beck is my last one and kind of the one I'm like, I think he'll be fine. But I've also probably been the harshest critic, if you ask Jared, for the last 2 seasons.
What's interesting too is so him and Ty Simpson, it looks like are both going to throw. So that QB2 spot's very up in the air. And there's a lot of teams that need some quarterback help and are likely to reach, even if it's trading back into the back half, whatever it might be. So if Carson Beck does go out there and puts on a show, he could potentially stumble himself into a good amount of money just by being very accurate with the ball, being very precise with the reads, just showing full command to throwing to those guys he's never thrown to before, not just the Malachi Tony show. Yeah. But at the same time, he can't Will Howard it because I think that's going to drop him to like round 7. So I think he has to – there's not as much he can go up, or down, which I think is the concern with him. Because, like you mentioned, he's not going to be the quote-unquote toolsy guy. He's not going to throw the ball a mile. He's not going to run the fastest. He's not going to light it up. What he has to do is he has to throw darts, basically. That's what he's got to do is he's got to throw darts.
He needs to have a performance similar to what like Tyson Bagent had a couple years ago, where he was a guy that nobody heard of. He won the equivalent for the D2 Heisman. Nobody had heard of him, though, going into the combine. And then it was like, oh, this guy is just slinging the rock. And he ends up on a roster now. So he needs that level of performance. Maybe not as explosive, but he needs that sort of like catch the eye when everybody else it's quarterbacks, we don't care situation where the NFL teams are just looking away. They're doing their interviews for every other position other than quarterback at that time. So he needs to have some sort of impact.
We'll say if he is accurate, if he makes the reads, I can see him getting drafted. Maybe has a Tyler Shuck-esque moment where he climbs up some boards and surprises people. But we will see.
There's always a second and third quarterback that get drafted in the first round that you're just like, huh?
Well, him and Ty Simpson are fighting for that spot, so we'll see. Because there's not really anybody else right now. But I'm going to go take a look. I just have a couple of them that I want to look at. First one I'm going to look at is Carnell Tate. He's expected to participate across the board. I'm curious to see what he runs. I kind of hope he does run the 40 because he looks his game tape. He is explosively fast. He is he led the college football in yards per catch, I believe. He is an explosive down the field weapon. If he runs a 42, match that at his 6'3", 212-ish pound frame, yeah, chalk him in for top 15, maybe even top 10, maybe even to the Browns, and that with their one of their first round picks too. Like he stands to gain a lot of money coming out of the OSU receiver factory as well. And Emeka Buka having that strong start to the season really amplified it, I think, amplified the opportunity from where it's just take this guy, plug and play. Even if they're not quite like the LSU guys with Jamar and Justin Jefferson at the very top of the league. I know JSN just ascended there. The Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, all those guys are still damn good. They're basically assured to be pretty darn good.
They're top 30 in in pretty much every case.
LSU might have more of the top tier guys when you throw in like Malik Neighbors, but OSU, everybody that comes out of there is in a way productive. Marvin Harrison Jr. might be the least productive at this point.
Which is shocking.
Exactly. So I think Carnell Tate stands to earn a lot of money if he can get if the 40-yard dash and the speed and the size and everything matches what we saw playing on Saturdays. The other one I'm going to look at is Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end from Oregon. Mm-hmm. That man can put on an Anthony Richardson-esque performance, but at tight end, and it will actually matter because he's not playing quarterback. None of that actually matters. But I'm going to predict now he's going to run a sub 4.55. I think he is going to light up the track. He might be in the 4.4s. When it comes to the blocking sled, he is going to eat that sled alive. He is going to maul it. He's going to test very well in strength. I think he's going to be athletically phenomenal, and he's going to look absolutely incredible in the underwear Olympics. Will that translate? We will see. But I think after this combine, no matter what happens to Travis Kelce, the Chiefs are going to be looking at like, please, just come on down. We have other holes, but give Patrick Mahomes this monster. Let's make it happen. I think he's going to light up the combine athletically, assuming he participates across the board.
Yeah, kind of Evan Ingram-esque in the underwear Olympics.
I think he's even going to dominate the strength and blocking even more so too, which I think is going to surprise teams. They're like, oh, and he can block, just like from Friday Night Lights, and he can pass. Like I think he's going to win basically every single thing he participates in.
If you had told me Oregon potentially puts 2 tight ends into the league in the last 3 years, I would be shocked before this. But they will now have had, with Sadiq, assuming he goes in the first 2 rounds, 2 tight ends in the last 3 years.
Dan Lanning does one thing really well since he's been in Oregon. That's get tight ends involved in the offense and get them drafted high. So, you know what? I dig it. Those are some of the guys I'm looking at. I think, obviously, we want to see if Mendoza does anything and runs. Those are some of the obvious ones. Yeah. I also want to see what Ruben Bain's arm measurements are. I don't want to see him do any – he doesn't have to do a damn thing otherwise. If he gets – I think it's just over 32.5. If he gets 33-inch arms, pencil him in the top 5. If it's under that, I could see him slip just a little bit, and which means he's going to end up on the Rams, which means he's going to be dominant on the Rams, and we're all going to regret it. Or he's going to end up on the Chiefs, and we're all going to regret it. So I hope he has freaky arms, and I hope he goes to the Jets, and I hope it's wonderful.
If he gets above 36, just go ahead and take that pen or take that pencil and make it a permanent marker in the top 5. If he goes
to 36, then the Raiders might have a be sitting like, well, hold on a minute now. Let's talk about this.
Yeah, seriously. That's crazy. I mean, the guy should be one of those dudes that just climbs. But yeah, I think the top 5 are going to be interesting to watch. How much do they compete? How much do they try? You mentioned Mendoza, Bain. There's a few guys that are like consensus consensus top 5 or top 10 guys that are like, oh, should I really do this? Should I do that? I like to see them all compete. I want to at least see them run, and I want to see linemen. I want to see you bench. Other than that, I don't. The bend test, I still to this day, I hate the bend for every other position other than edge. Like, I don't care about doing the circles. As a fat guy, I hated that when we did that in training. I don't want to see other fat guys do that. It's just not fun.
I get it when people don't want to participate, especially when there are those projected top 5s. I get it, but so I don't hold it against them. But it does go in the favor of those who do. Kind of like the CJ Stroud, Bryce Young thing. Like, I put a lot of stock in CJ Stroud doing that and putting on the clinic that he did. I think it helps you, but it doesn't really hurt you if you don't, I guess. But it can. Yep. Someone cooks it, they can't pass you because you're going to look good at your pro day. It's mandatory. Yeah. That's why everybody waits for it. Like the combine has a lot of opportunities for you to look bad. That's why I think if you look good, especially like quarterbacks, receivers, those timing, positional ones. So that
it also,
I hope we see them.
it also puts you in a really unfamiliar position, and it shows a team how you can handle an unfamiliar situation, throwing to unfamiliar players, which tells them what to expect if somebody gets hurt. What to expect if you're thrust into a game you've never practiced with these guys other than 5 snaps. Because in the NFL, it's much different than in college. Not everybody gets snaps in practice. The NFL, first and second string only. Second string only with second string against a first string. Like, you don't play with first stringers on both. Like, you might get 5 snaps if you're a brand new quarterback and you're a second stringer. That might be what you get for a first team rep. And that's just because the other guy needed to go to the bathroom.
And if you're one of those guys too, I love to see those guys run because they can also propel themselves up a little bit. It's like Justin Jefferson, he was projected maybe a late first rounder. Then he ran that 4.3 and everyone's like, oh, wait a minute now. And still went into the later half of the first round, but he climbed up a lot of boards. And like, oh, this isn't just the one of those guys that Joe Burrow was throwing to, or that guy not named Jamar Chase. Oh, he's that dude, and is now arguably receiver 1 in the NFL. Maybe a little bit less now, but over the last 5 years.
Just remember, the Eagles thought that there was a better receiver than him that couldn't score a touchdown.
Yeah, the Raiders did too. They didn't do themselves any favors. They had all those receivers, and they took somebody else first off the board. So it is hindsight. Oh, we're not even going back that far. I was talking Henry Ruggs, but yeah.
Look, okay. All right.
They left CeeDee Lamb on the board. They left Justin Jefferson on the board. They left your boy T. Higgins on the board. Like, when you have the first receiver off the board, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. I'm just saying.
I do know one thing. At least after this combine, we'll come back together and we'll talk about it again, and we'll get ready for our big board going into pro days, which we have still been extremely successful on for the last 5 years that we've done it. I think we're batting above 60% success rate for guys drafted in the first 2 rounds off of our big boards. So, yeah.
Well, now I just need to make sure that they are right, that we don't want any busts in those two. We got to minimize the busts moving forward. But
hey, even our random shots were like taken in the first part of the 3rd round, so it's not like we're that far off.
I just need them to not be busts when they get there. Because if I say you're a top 50 player in the draft and you end up flaming out in a week, then I feel like an asshole. So I just need you to be good when you get there. That's all I need, guys. That's all I need from you.
And also, just follow the rules when you get to the NFL, guys. Don't be stupid.
Georgia, looking at you.
Hey, just need that quarterback with the speeding ticket.
Just get Uber, Lyft, walk.
NFL offers you free rides. All you got to do is use their service, and you call somebody from the NFL. That's all you got to do. Teams do it. Teams have guys on call for it. Just don't be stupid. Don't drive your own car. I know you got a lot of money. I know you can now pay for a brand new spanking like fancy car. Don't do it. Save that for the off season.
No, don't drive in the offseason either. If you went to Georgia, just never drive again. Like,
if you went to Georgia, different conversation. Also,
everybody
don't buy a motorcycle. Those are the 2 rules for driving. Don't use your car during the season, and don't drive a motorcycle ever in the NFL.
Well, as much as I'm enjoying trashing on Georgia, we can do that all day. But that's gonna now lead us into the next part of our show. That is, of course, the main event. And for the main event, we're talking college football. So the greatest transition of all time, going from where we might be talking about Georgia in a completely different light. But what we're going to do today is we're going to rank our top 5 college football games since 2000. So we're about 25 and some change years in. So our best college football games of the millennium. There have been some good ones. There's been some ugly ones. There's been a lot of them. We're going to go from 5 to 1. Kelcey, would you like to do your 5 first, or do you want me to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first because I think I'm not going to surprise anybody with some of my picks. I feel like I should start the Auburn theme song now, but I won't. So I'll save everybody that. So Auburn fight song. But yeah, number 5 on my list, 2007, LSU, Florida. LSU won 28-24 over Florida. Tebow, that game, 42 of 58 offensive plays where he touched the ball as either a runner or passer, which is crazy. Insane usage rate. Still lost off of a 3rd quarter fake field goal down 17-7 from LSU, 2 4th down conversions in the final drive, and a Jacob Hester monolithic day. 23 carries, 106 yards, and the game-winning rushing touchdown. And if nobody remembers, Jacob Hester was a fullback. And only a fullback.
He was a back.
He was. So, that one's my number 5. I thought that game was really interesting, really fun to watch from a perspective of just like That was that Florida team. That was also the year before the speech for Tim Tebow. Also, you think about that 2007 roster for Florida. That was a really, really good roster. That LSU roster, though, national championship roster. So, yeah,
There's
don't forget.
a lot of future NFL players and a lot of future attendees to cells on that Florida team for sure.
Yeah. So that's my number 5. Number 4 on the list is a little more recent, but it's an Auburn one. It's the 2010 Iron Bowl, the comeback, the 27 or down 24 to 3, 24 to 7 going into halftime, something like that. Auburn scored 28 of the last 31 total points, and Auburn won 28-27. Antoine Carter, this is the part I remember the most. I was watching with a bunch of Alabama fans as well as Auburn fans in Auburn, Alabama. And it was in the highlights. It was after the game, and we got to watch the Mark Ingram punch out. So when Antoine Carter punched out the fumble against Mark Ingram that went out of the back of the end zone, that really turned the tide on the game. Fun way to use that name. Also, it created the Lutzy. If nobody remembers the Lutz and Kirchen on the throwback, and then walks into the end zone, does his little dance. That's where the Lutzy came from. And now the celebration Alabama fans use, where they go up on the cranes pose, that kicked off with the Lutzy, by the way. So, yeah, you're welcome for that, Alabama. We gave you that. So, yeah, number 4, 2010 Iron Bowl, the comeback, whatever you want to call it. Probably one of the best games I've ever experienced for sure. But number 3, the USC Notre Dame game, a.k.a. Bush Push. I was a kid. This was honestly one of my favorite jerseys for Notre Dame ever wore. It was the real Kelly greens. This is Jeff Samardzija. This is Brady Quinn. This was an incredible Notre Dame team. They should have, this is Tyrone Washington's one chance of getting them to the national championship game. And yeah, Matt Leinart, Bush, Reggie Bush, you name it on that USC team. They were a studded team. But yeah, that was the precursor to the tush push. That was shortly after this, the next 2 seasons. The actual push motion by Reggie Bush was banned from college football for a few years because of this. But yeah, crazy game. It was an early, what did they play? September game because it was in Notre Dame.
I think so. It was like September, early October.
Yeah.
During that 30-something game win streak USC was on, I think it was up to 40-ish at that point.
Look, that USC squad was one of the all-time best franchise-esque teams, if you will. And that Notre Dame team was their one chance, really. That Brady Quinn team, that Jeff Samardzija love squad. Golden Tate, I believe, was on that team. I might be off by a year, though. So
a couple years off, yeah. He came a little after, but
yeah. So look, that it is what it is. I grew up a Notre Dame fan, so that one was tough to watch, but I still remember it vividly. Number 2 on the list, I'm sticking with USC. However, they're on the lose again this time. Texas 41, USC 39. That is the 2006 Rose Bowl. Vince Young in the front corner of the end zone, walking it off. Honestly, one of the best national championships games in eternity. Very few, in my eyes, have lived up to that level of hype because that game was hyped from point A. Like, it was announced and it was hype. And then the game itself was just like, oh, this is the 2 top dogs for sure. I mean, and also you talk about it, Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart again against Vince Young, Heisman Trophy conversation amongst all of them. And lo and behold, Vince Young walks out on top. One of the more exciting games I've ever seen. And unfortunately, we all had to deal with the Texas Longhorns are back conversation after that again. Didn't last for longer than a year, so that's okay. But yeah, the game was still one of the more incredible games. Probably if I was being unbiased in this list, if I wasn't picking my top 5, it would probably be number 1. But I'm picking my top 5, and that matters because number 1 on my list is the Kick 6, 2013, Auburn 34, Bama 28. We all remember Chris M.F. Davis running up the sideline, the call by Auburn's play-by-play announcer at the time, who ended up unfortunately passing away. But let's not forget TJ Yeldon stepped out with a second on the clock, and Nick Saban was so excited to give back that second. That second lived on in eternity now. It is one of the most eternalized seconds you've ever seen in a college football game or in any football game, because it is like, not only was the rivalry, it is what it is, but it ruined Alabama's chances. It ruined everything for Nick Saban at that point in time in that season. So last game of the year, can't hold anything back. Well, Auburn didn't. And very, very few times like is a coach smart enough to call a timeout before the kick and then run a kick returner out in the huddle. Like he literally ran out to the back of the end zone while they were still huddled up and snuck his way back there. So incredible situation. Also, they put in a bunch of offensive linemen to block for him, which is something that most coaches wouldn't think to do on a field goal block team. Easily kick six, lives on in infamy. Avery Young still has the best face, the oh no face after everything from that. Never forget that moment where I was, and that was exciting. That was by far my pinnacle of watching college football.
When you factor in the rivalry and everything that came into it, that just made it that much more insane as well. And like you mentioned, the coaching adaptation, like we're not going to block this. So on the off chance that they do miss this, because this is not an easy kick for any kicker, let alone a college kicker, yeah, we're going to give ourselves a chance. And sure enough, they got that chance and they set up return left, and boy, did they funnel it perfectly. It doesn't get much better than that as far as the blocking, the setup as well. And I agree with you. That one is definitely over the comeback. The comeback, while fun, while great, while that propelled Auburn to that national championship run, the kick six is one of those infamy moments where the comeback one's awesome. It's a favorite. It's going to live, but the kick six is going to be an infamy one regardless.
You know what's different for me is the comeback. I was like, I don't know. Personally, I wasn't as at the time invested because I had just gotten injured and not been caring about what happened anymore. And I was like, well, I'm suffering through my injury situation. You know, I was poor picked on me when they're in the comeback. 2013 though, I was alive and well for that. For me, it was just a little bit more on like I could watch it as a fan in 2013. In 2010, it was a much different perspective for me watching it. I still think it's one of the best single player games I've ever watched from Cam, from any player, but I think specifically for Cam, for a Heisman Trophy winner, that was his beyond Heisman moment. But yeah, I think the kick six for me, what lives in infamy, is that was a relatively unknown DB. Most people don't know who Chris Davis is. Most people didn't know who Chris Davis was. Chris Davis actually ended up in the NFL on a roster because somebody's like, oh, he could do that on kick returns. And then it didn't really transition, but that's how he got there. So he had the skills. He just never had the big performances, and that was his big performance. And also love my big guys getting out there and blocking on a field goal block. It's always cool.
Yep, when you outfox Nick Saban like that, that's always something that's fun too. Like,
always. That's even better. Like
that very few guys can say they've done that, and when you have that moment, you definitely never let that one happen.
And unlike everything else, that was a skill based 1 second win, like last second win. Whereas there's a lot of like I could have said the prayer Jordan Hare, you know, the tip six, whatever you want to call that against Georgia, like that's always up there in conversation. But that was a little too lucky for me. Not so much like, yes, things had to go right, but as long as he missed the kick, which the odds were always in their favor of him missing, it was a well executed situation, and it was just pure execution, not any luck to it. Like. That's the cool thing I love about the kick six.
It's someone making a play, not somebody missing a play, which I think is a huge change on that one. So we're gonna go from 5 to 1 on mine. It's a little different. There might be other. I don't think there's actually any. There's one that will overlap. The rest of them are different. So we will get some variety. There's a lot of good college football games to choose from. We're gonna start with a random one too that I just remember, and I'm gonna stick with it. Number 5, Texas versus Texas Tech, 2008. We're dipping into the archives. For those who know, they know, and for those who don't know, they're about to know really quickly. Number 7, Texas Tech taking out number 1, Texas, 39-33. This was when Texas was still kind of at their height. It's not we're back. We never have left yet. They were still that good. The Colt McCoy era was strong. They were down in this game too. They came down from 16 to take the lead. They were down 16 in the third quarter. Late touchdown, and then unbelievably, I don't know if anyone remembers how – I know everyone thinks that Michael Crabtree is basically Richard Sherman and getting his chain snatched. But at Texas Tech, he had 2 years of being Devontae Smith. You can make the case for. Like, he scored 40 touchdowns in 2 years. Like, he was one of the best college football receivers of all time. He was absolutely electric. And sure enough, with 90-ish seconds left, Graham Harrell finds him on a 28-yard basically back shoulder fade route, catches it, breaks the tackle, tiptoes in bounds to stay in bounds, and score that game-winning touchdown with 1 second left on the clock. Sorry, I misspoke there, but They took over with 90 seconds left and scored with 1 touchdown on the clock. Incredible game, especially when a in-state rivalry with Texas Tech. I know they're not in the same conference, but it's still a rivalry when you face each other.
Well, they were then. They were in the same conference then. They were both
Texas Tech were they both in the Big 12? Yeah,
they were both Big 12 at the time.
Which, you know, it amplified even more then. So that's my point remains. All the stakes on there, and then you have the best receiver in college football, and arguably a top 3 player in college football overall that year, making the huge play against the number 1 ranked seed to end their championship hopes that year too.
So I have a funny story about why this is not anywhere near my top 10. So we were on a senior trip, my senior year of high school, to Disney World. We had just gotten off the bus driving down from Mobile, Alabama to Disney World. I fell asleep pregame. I woke up to Michael Crabtree's touchdown. I missed the entire game and woke up to Michael Crabtree scoring the touchdown and me being like, see, I told you guys Texas Tech would win. And there's like 8 people in the room and they were all just losing their mind. And I had slept through everything up until that point. And all I woke up to was watching him break the tackles, tiptoe down the line, and just bedlam. I mean, that's the best way to describe that, was just pure bedlam. I know they talk about the rivalry, but like truly that was the definition of bedlam. And it was, that's so it's never going to be in my top 10, but I still have probably one of the funnier stories about that entire game where I'm just like, yeah, I didn't know what happened, but I told somebody on the bus beforehand that Michael Crabtree is going to score a game-winning touchdown, and I just went with it. So, yeah, woke up to screaming, and I was like, see, told you. I don't even know what I was saying. I told you so. But that started my podcasting career in 2008. There you go. Me calling things outlandishly.
He still remains one of the best college football receivers I've ever seen in my life, too. Even with Devontae Smith's well-earned Heisman year, even with Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, Travis Hunter's receiver DB year, Jamar Chase's year, that I've not seen really anybody quite like Michael Crabtree for those 2 years.
Number 5, Michael Crabtree was something else.
He was good in the NFL. It's just, unfortunately, when you're that good in college, there's almost nothing you could do in the NFL to quite live up to that. No. And he did it without being freakishly fast, freakishly large. He was still like 6'2", so it was not like he was small, but he was just made plays. It was didn't run away from people really unless he had to. Wasn't dunking on people unless he had to. Wasn't Calvin Johnson out there, but just no one could guard him. Can't guard Mike.
What's sad is he probably wouldn't have been a guy that is a number 1 in today's NFL because he was never a standout anywhere along the lines as far as like, except for his reach and except for his hand size. So the 2 things he had bigger than everybody else. And he was just that good of a receiver that he could say what you will.
I make the case he could be very dangerous in the NFL on the right team. If I look at Jackson Smith and Jigbo, I think what he could have done if he was drafted in this era with the space and the right team. But like you said, he goes to the wrong team where he's not freaky, and then they just kind of tell him to go sit in the corner, basically. They tell him to be a 3-and-D guy, and then it doesn't work. But anyway, I digress. I'll get back into this because I got 4 more to go. Next up, Alabama versus Georgia, 2017 national championship game. The Tua Tagovailoa coming out party. Second half, Jalen Hurts gets benched. Handles like the ultimate consummate professional, too. Even in the post-game interview, the debut of, Jalen Hurts the leader. This is when he still had dreadlocks, so everyone thought he had no future playing quarterback at the next level. But he showed them. Devontae Smith catching the game-winning touchdown in the national championship as a freshman, too. That was also the squad that had Henry Ruggs, Jerry Jeudy, Calvin Ridley, star-studded team. Georgia, Sony Michel, Nick Chubb. I believe that was pre-Stetson Bennett. That was Jake Fromm. Yep. They had that defense. Not to mention they were just coming off another game in the semifinal rounds that you could make a case is on board with this one, where they beat Oklahoma 54-48 in double overtime. So that one we're going to put at number 4 for the national championship, for that rivalry, the second time they met, and the fact that you had Tua coming off the bench in the second half because Nick Saban's like, we got nothing. Sorry, I can't make it work. When against Oklahoma, it was the antithesis where Georgia had nothing going. Then out of nowhere, flip the switch. So it was the nice little history, how it rhymes sort of thing. And Alabama had beaten the brakes off of, I think it was Clemson the week before. Yep. No, it was Notre Dame, actually, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember who it was. They beat the brakes off.
I think it was Clemson the week before.
Might have been, because they did have Clemson the national championship.
It was the year before. A year after was Notre Dame when Tua got benched for Jalen, I think.
Either way.
Might be backwards, but
whatever it might be, Alabama looked like they were going to, for lack of better terms, roll through that national championship game. They were well on their way to, and sure, they're sorry, not Georgia was going to roll through them, but sure enough, that's what we ended up with. But anyway, I digress. And it was Clemson. They did beat the brakes off Clemson 24-6. Had to correct on myself on that one.
Yeah.
By the way, Auburn beat them that year too.
Yes, they did. Yep. But also, just for what it's worth, one throw is what's remembered from that game. But honestly, that was one of the best second half performances by a quarterback, especially a freshman. And that's what got Tua drafted. That's what got him on people's boards, other than being the number one prospect. He was still that dude during the second half. So let's not forget, let's not just overshadow his whole performance by one throw, because that one throw was picture perfect. Absolutely beautiful. Honestly, Carson Beck tried it in the national championship, and it shows you what a top-tier quarterback who throws it flat versus a top-tier quarterback who floats it a little too much can do. And Tua just threw a dart versus a little floater. So, yeah, easily it was an honorable mention on my list, but it was too much Alabama and Georgia for me, so couldn't do it.
Goes against the DNA. But
yeah.
Next up, we're digging another one to the bag of tricks. The Fiesta Bowl from 2007, Boise State versus Oklahoma. The Statue of Liberty. Ian Johnson scoring that game-winning touchdown, then proposing to his girlfriend, which then became his wife. This was back in the era. You can't say now where they're like, oh yeah, we see JMU get in there. Blah. This was the BCS that the Boise State got into a bowl game. The BCS was a hater, for better and for worse. We could bring the BCS back now, but I digress.
Parts of the BCS, yes.
Not fully integrated, but mix it in there a little bit, utilize. But anyway, they managed to stumble into that. I think Oklahoma was double-digit point favorites. Oklahoma that year was not too far out of national championship contention. And sure enough, yeah, this is actually 1 year before they went to the national championship game. The following year was Sam Bradford and his Heisman Trophy winning season. And not only did they get the Statue of Liberty for the 2-point conversion to win it, they also had the trick play to score the game tying touchdown on top of it. It was the ultimate David versus Goliath is the phrase I'm trying to think of here. It was very much taking down the Herculean. They took down Goliath, and they did it in such spectacular fashion. Overtime too, 43-42. And not to mention the Sooners, they had a pick six with 60 seconds to play. They had won the game. Jared Zabransky had thrown that pick. And then we saw that was the hook and ladder game too, where they scored the touchdown to tie it on a 50-yard hook and ladder fourth down. And the rest is history at that point too. The Statue of Liberty will forever remain in infamy. So that one's going to go number 3. The way college football is right now, we probably won't be seeing anything quite like that anytime soon, unfortunately, just because that's not the way college football is set up and played, unfortunately. But next up, we're going to go to number 2 on the list. We're going to go 1 year back in 2006. The game, OSU versus Michigan. Number 1 versus number 2. We talked about it during rivalry week.
Game of the century.
And it still might just be because it still holds that title. And not only that, it was a close game too. It was, I believe it was 42-38 or something like that. It was a ridiculously close game. It was the national championship on the line at Troy Smith's, 42-39. And it was Troy Smith's Heisman Trophy winning moment, the play action deep on the Ted Ginn Jr. to basically put the game away. Michael Hart, Lamar Woodley, Chad Henne, that very balanced Michigan defense that beat that Notre Dame team to start the year as well. That really put them on the map. Undefeated. Winner was taking on Florida in the national championship, which they were both favored to win that one. So we're going to put that one in number 2 when you factor in the rivalry that comes with that game too. More often than not, a lot of fans of either team like, you know what? We don't have to win the Natty as long as we beat them. In this case, it was the opportunity to do both. And yeah, that doesn't get much better than that. Then number 1, the Rose Bowl, USC, Texas, the Vince Young virtuoso, Lendell White's 3 touchdowns, Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush, Michael Huff, the defense making just enough plays. Still game of the century, still that scamper in with so little time left when USC had all but taken the game over. Reggie Bush was relatively quiet that game until he wasn't when they needed it most, and he made a couple of big plays that made it look like he just won the national championship. Locked in the three-peat, locked him in as arguably one of the best dynasties of all time. 2 touchdown comeback in the final handful of minutes. Pete Carroll, that 4th and 2 around midfield as well. That's going to forever. What is with Pete Carroll in these short yardage situations? God damn it. It's just insanity. And it was still one of the best games I've ever seen. Vince Young threw for 267 and rushed for 200. One of the best individual performances, as you mentioned. 4th and 5. And that game-winning touchdown came on 4th and 5 with 19 seconds left. So he did it with no wiggle room. So that one, For me, the Rose Bowl will still remain. When I think Rose Bowl, that's the one that always comes to mind. We've seen some great Rose Bowls since then. But that one, good luck topping that one. It's going to take quite the performance to top that one at this point.
Yeah, no, easily one of the better ones. What's crazy? So, all right, that was named the number 3 best highlight of like the century or something like that. 1980's Miracle on Ice was number 1. Number 2 was actually the Statue of Liberty Boise State game, which you mentioned. This is by the way, ESPN rankings. And then number 3 was the Vince Young scampering into the end zone. This was in 2010 when they announced it. And I always found that interesting that a national championship winning moment was better than a de facto 6th place game. I know it was Boise State, but like App State was like 20 something on the list over Michigan, which is another one we could have probably talked about. But yeah, there's that game. I mean, true, it was on my list as well, the Texas USC game. I look at that as like, if I'm not being biased, I think that's all time my favorite national championship game to watch.
I also feel like college football was at its most cinema, quote unquote. That gift, I think that was the most cinema that college football has been, at least in our lifetimes. It feels like obviously those Alabama teams have been big, the Clemson rivalry, Georgia's back to back, all of that. But USC's star power that went with it too, like they were more well known than a lot of NFL teams. Like they had more star power than a lot of NFL teams, and this was pre-NIL, which is give Reggie Bush back his Heisman, basically. Where that originated from.
Yeah.
You had 2 Heisman winners. They were truly box office in a way that we have not really seen since then, despite more money being involved in it.
Was that Pasadena? Did they play Pasadena that game? That was what even that was like. For some reason, I remembered a rose in Vince Young's mouth after the game. But yeah, that's like you look at that as I know I said a Rose Bowl and I still forgot it when I asked the question.
It felt even more like the USC like everything.
Well, that's their home stadium.
USC. Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's like you play in the Coliseum, you play against USC in the Coliseum in LA. You're like, there's no chance we're gonna win, especially that USC. You mentioned Pete Carroll in short yardage situations. Well, hey, it is what it is. We all have our yips.
What's crazy is how good that Texas team was because they beat number 3 ranked Ohio State earlier in the year too. Like it was like that team was so good. The problem was USC was so dynastic that you almost overlooked it. And they beat that Notre Dame team via a push that would not be allowed following, but they still got those wins. They had some close ones. That wasn't their best run of the 3 years, like the close one with Arizona State, a couple of close games in there, but they were still, I think it was like a 45 game win streak or something like that, or 35. It was something asinine. They were out. That's still everything combined.
Until Alabama broke it. That tells you how good that USC team. It took a Nick Saban to beat it. That undefeated streak.
All the ingredients to just have the perfect storm of outstanding college football games. Could we have that type of game again soon? It's possible. I think with a lot of the movement and stuff like that too, it's a little difficult because you have Matt Leinart, Dwayne Jarrett, Steve Smith, but not that Steve Smith, Clay Matthews, all those guys that just been there for so long together that have gone through it. It's
juniors and seniors.
It's possible. Lendell White, who people forget about, but had 18 touchdowns last season. He was just an absolute brick load to tackle.
Thunder and lightning, yeah.
Boy, did he bring the thunder, that's for sure. And then, of course, Texas with Vince Young, who they came up just a little short the year before. They were just a touch short. And this year, everything came full circle. So, that one will remain one of the best. And we'll see. I don't take any list that serious that doesn't have it in the top 5.
Yeah, easily. I'm with you. That's one of my must-haves in the top 5s. Everything else, I'm okay with whatever you want to put it. But those, because I get it. There's all a little bias when we go to make these lists. We all have a little bit of attachment to something that we remember a little more fondly, or I don't remember fondly because I slept through the game. But I think if it's not on your list and you were born and were like of at least the age of 15 at the time, and it's not on your list, I have questions about
We're talking just games this millennium where there's been 26 years. Yeah, there's been thousands and tens of thousands of college football games. Yeah, there's nothing has passed that.
It's easily up there for sure. I mean, I get the Alabama Georgia conversation for needing to be up there. Again, it's just personal bias. I'm not going to put it up there.
Like I said, it doesn't have to be number 1 for anybody, but it has to be in the top 5. If it's not in the top 5, then it can't be taken seriously. But let us know down below. Same. My team's OU, and I picked them losing humiliatingly in here. So I get it. But that's gonna do it here for the main event. Let us know down below in the comments section. What are your top 5 college football games since 2000? But that's now gonna take us into Kelcey's favorite part of every show, and that is of course crunch time. And for crunch time, we are talking football, but in a slightly different way. Is things are changing in the UFL.
They are.
4-point play. UFL is revolutionizing the game. 60-plus yards will now equal 4 points. Brandon Aubrey just became an absolute weapon, even more so than he already was. He might have to go back to the UFL at this point, but I love this. I love it.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't heard me say it before, one more time for the people in the back. Kickers are people too. They matter. Fun fact, a top 10 scorer in NFL this year in fantasy football was Brandon Aubrey. If he was ranked in receivers, he would be number 2 in points scored just this last season. Don't give me this kickers don't matter unless you're a punter. Punters was a different conversation based on the rule changes for the UFL. But kickers matter. And honestly, punters matter inside of the last 2 minutes of both halves for the UFL change. If you don't know what I'm talking about, the UFL changed the rule as well. No punts allowed inside the 50-yard line. More incentive to get a kicker who could kick a 60-yard field goal. But also, the only stipulation to that change in the punting is inside of the last 2 minutes of both halves, you are allowed to punt within that, allowing for everybody's favorite drill in Madden 06 and 07 and 08, the coffin corner, to come back into fruition. We all remember trying to kick it in the trash can or kick it in the arc or just kick it as close as you can to the 1-yard line. But yeah, I do love some of these changes for sure. I love the demand to either go for it on 4th down or to kick a long field goal. That's just fantastic to me because it provides a lot more strategy than just we're going to do this by the book. And it changes the UFL, which is something we've all wanted. We all like a little bit of change to what we're watching. We don't want to watch the same NFL program in the spring. I'm sorry. Nobody loves the NFL that much. I promise you. Nicknamed the No Fun League for a reason. So not only do we get better celebrations, now we get a 4-point field goal kick. And now we get punts banned, which I'm excited for a little while inside of the 50. So no more of those pooch punts. Get those out of here. Give me real plays. I do also like the idea of banning the tush push, which is what they're doing. I think that's a very interesting idea. Obviously, we talked about it with the push conversation in previous segment, but I think in the UFL, it really does set them apart as what they're trying to be, a feeder league to the NFL, because the NFL has been in talks for the tush push. The kickoff rule for the NFL was started in the UFL. So they're kind of trying to set a precedence for how you can demand these rule changes to take effect and be successful. And I think something like the tush push, if you really care about players' health, NFL, you do need to ban it. But if you don't care about players' health, your choice.
Then give me back the normal. Then give me back the OG kickoffs. Then that's all I ask. Give me back Devin Hester and the collisions.
It's the next.
Bring back Lorenzo Neal.
It's honestly the next logical step, and it will be. The NFL will see it eventually. But yeah, I like the rules. Some of the changes as well. Revolutionary overtime guidelines, 1 foot back in bounds. So NCAA rule. They're really setting themselves as a transition league to get to the NFL, and I like that because that's something that's missing. There's no developmental league for the NFL. It's either you're an NFL player or you're not. And the UFL is positioning themselves to be that feeder developmental league that you can take a college player, implement some NFL rules, kind of keep your own style still, not fully give in, but lead a player to be somebody who moves on to the NFL, also bringing revenue back to you because of their contract conversation. So, yeah, I think the UFL is setting themselves up to be something a little bit more unique, but a little bit more exciting this year than we already were. And maybe start banging those overs now. Because get it before they change the rule change for the rule change hits the sports books. Go ahead and start hitting those overs now.
No, we're probably already too late. They're probably on top of it. Literally everything in the world is bet on these
They
things.
probably were on top of it an hour before this.
There's going to probably be a good – I think it's going to capture some of the excitement that we see from Arena League, but in a less kind of goofy setting. It was just the amount of big plays, the explosion, that sort of thing. I think it's going to blend some of the best of those both worlds, which is going to make it very interesting with a lot of the pace. But speaking of pace – one thing that I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of pace in is the fight game. Is once again, my concerns continue to come to fruition as old people continue to be put into the fight ring. Manny Pacquiao versus Floyd Mayweather 2 in the Sphere in September. Once again on Netflix. We talked about this last week with Gina Carano and Ronda Rousey. Floyd's going to be 50. Pacquiao is going to be 48, 49, I believe, somewhere in there. They fought in 2015 the first time, and it was 5 years too late. That they were saying that at the time. Now we're going to see it in 2016. Just let it go. Let the fight game go. Floyd could still piece up the majority of guys still fighting. Pacquiao still probably can too. Still going to be sat just out of pure curiosity because Floyd's 50-0. We know he beat Conor for that 50-0. So it's like 49.5-0, I guess. So this gives him a chance to get a real 50-0 against a true boxer. But at the same time, I want to, if Netflix is going to dip into the fight game, I want them to not feel like these weird novelty fights. I mean, Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua, Jake Paul, Mike Tyson, Mayweather-Pacquiao, Ronda Rousey, Gina Carano. I want to see, like, I know they did have Terrence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez. That was great, but like that feels like a one-off at this point. So I'm just like, I want more of that. Like I want to see more of that. And I just tired of seeing people that are closer to retirement than they are to my age. And I'm an old man. They're closer to retirement age than they are to my age. I don't need to see them getting the ring and trading concussions, trading CTE. Like no more.
I'm closer to retirement age than they are to their primes. Like, I don't know. I don't remember the last fight that Floyd Mayweather threw a punch that could knock somebody out. It's honestly been that long. It's been decades. Like, okay, a normal person, yes, he could knock out a normal, before either trolls say it. Yes, he could knock out a normal person with his punches. That's no question. Another boxer, though, I don't know the last time. It must have been win 42, 41. 30?
Probably the fight he had right after Pacquiao, which was his last boxing match, not including the Conor McGregor, which, yes, it counts as a pro fight, but I'm still calling it exhibition. But whatever. It's been a very long time. It's been over a decade since he last fought a professional boxer in the ring for that counts on his record.
Look, I just remember watching the first one and being so mad that they weren't throwing punches. It was a dodging fight, not a fight. Like, it was like, how quick can I dodge you? And I get it. You don't want to get punched in the face. I understand that. I don't like being punched in the face either. I actively choose not to get punched in the face 9 times out of 10. But man, if you were getting paid to go punch people in the face, don't act like you don't want to be there. Act like you want to be there. Act like this is what your job is and go fight somebody. But if it's the same setup, I'm just... this is another one I'm going to hate watch. I know I'm going to because it's on Netflix, so I'm going to tune in as long as there's not a buffering issue again. But yeah, I'm just going to hate watch the heck out of this one.
I appreciate defense in boxing. I appreciate the idea of hitting and not getting hit. I don't mind the pop punching, like the evasiveness. I get all that, the stick and move. I love the science of it. It's just harder to watch when they're clearly so far past when they're at their best. This is a fight that was talked about in 2009 the first time. This is when this should have taken place in like 2010, 11, 12. It took place in 2015. And I don't want to see the rematch in 2026. Like he said, I'm going to hate watch because I'm intrigued. I'm curious to see if maybe Pacquiao still has the hand speed, but that started to wither by the time they fought in 2015. And he was such an explosive puncher. That was what made him special because he climbed 8 weight classes. Granted, boxing weight classes are like 3.5 pounds each, but whatever. It's still impressive to climb up that many weight classes.
Still 24 pounds.
If he's still that twitchy, if then maybe something happens if Floyd slows down a touch, but he's so defensively sound, does that make it like there's a lot to intriguing, and I could talk myself into it, and I will. But damn it, I was just talked about this last week and the week before that. I don't need any more of the novelty fights. And I worried about what's going to happen next week now that I said it out loud. But either way, I'll be tuned in. Either way, I hope they just both defy age. I won't say like shoot up all the steroids and HGH and everything that you can offer. Not that they probably need it, but
yes,
if you want to, I just don't test. I just want it. We are 15 years later than what we all were hoping for. I know we're kind of living in I know 2026 has been the nostalgia year where everyone's like, remember 2016? Remember the throwbacks? I need us to bring it a little bit more full circle here, just a little bit more. But you know what? Let's hope for the best, right? Let's hope something jarring happens. Someone goes to sleep or something dramatic happens.
If Netflix is really dying for a fight card, just call us. We'll put together a belly up sports versus somebody else fight card if we need to. We've talked about jokingly doing it for years. I think it would be Netflix. If you need something, give us a call. You guys are buying out podcasts. Just give us a call. We don't even have to buy us out. We'll just put us on a card. We'll put together a fight card for you. We'll even have every weight class figured out. Don't worry. If I need to be the butterball of the conversation, I'll be the 6'3" butterball version. I got this. Don't worry.
You're basically proposing across podcast groups, rough and rowdy.
Podcast versus podcast. Let's go in the ring, Netflix style. We'll fight it out, tournament style. You know, it's opposite groups versus opposite groups, and then we meet. Just match up the lineup like top guy for each class, for each network. They fight each other, and then you just win or move on. If you end up fighting somebody from the same podcast group, sucks to be you. You better beat them. But you know what? Start it that way, and then we'll just go from there. I don't care. I think it would be fun. I would willingly, actively choose to get punched in the face in those moments because I think it would be a very fun and entertaining conversation. And it'd be more entertaining than this. That's what I'm trying to get to. It'd just be way more entertaining than this.
Well, we'll find out. Well, we'll see how entertaining this is. But hey, Netflix, I'm not opposed to it.
Netflix
I'll start
email
jogging.
is in the bio, or is in the description and the bio.
I'll start jogging. But that's going to do it here for the High Low Sports Podcast. We appreciate y'all so much for joining us, and we'll see you all again next week.